Hello, good day everyone. This is Joe Brent. So, for today's vlog, I'll be discussing to you our lesson number 8. Sakto ba? Lesson number 8 in the subject of science, technology, and society. And for today's vlog, I'll be explaining to you biodiversity and the healthy society. So, I'll be discussing to you what is biodiversity and how to achieve a healthy society, okay, in relation to biodiversity. So what is biodiversity? So but before I'll continue, allow me to say hi to all my subscribers, by the way, and to those who are new to my channel. Please do like, share, and subscribe to get to know more about my channel or to inspire other students to be part of our channel. Thank you so much. So let's go back. So what is biodiversity? Okay, so when you think about this one, we all experience decrease in biodiversity. And I think it is very prevalent nowadays. Okay, so when you talk about biodiversity, it encompasses all kinds of life forms. So when you talk about it deals about our lives as humans, it deals about the lives of our nature, our environment, and the things that are happening around us. Okay, so there is a decrease in biodiversity. So biodiversity plays a major role in the natural dynamics. So biodiversity plays a great role in our lives as humans, in the lives of the animals, in our nature, in our environment. So that biodiversity plays a major role in this natural dynamics. Biodiversity plays a great role into my life, into our lives, in the lives of the animals, of the things that are happening around us. Because biodiversity encompasses all kinds of life forms. Okay, so as humans, we need to preserve and conserve the biodiversity of all creatures. So as humans, if you want to have a healthy society, we need to preserve and conserve biodiversity. We need to preserve biodiversity of all creatures. Okay, so we need to sustain them. We need to sustain our ecosystem. We need to preserve them, to protect them, to have a healthy society. And I think that is the main idea here, the biodiversity and the healthy society. If diversity, possibly we also received a negative effect of the things that we are doing. So that is very important. Take note that it is true that depend on the idea of biodiversity, especially on the wholeness of our being and in our everyday lives. We always depend on the biodiversity. So if there is a decrease in biodiversity because of the changes that we are now experiencing, possibly we will also be affected by it. So we cannot deny the fact that we are connected with our nature, with our environment, and with the things that are happening now. We are so dependent with biodiversity. Okay, so more so our health will also depend upon the products and services that we acquire from the ecosystem. Because humans, we are so dependent with biodiversity, also our health will also depend with the products produced with the ecosystem. So where do we get our food? It is from the products and services comes from the ecosystem. So if we tend to abuse our ecosystem, possibly we will experience food crisis. Possibly we will not have enough food to eat. And that is the idea of sustaining our ecosystem for us to be healthy, preserving and conserving our biodiversity. And a lot of impact of globalization, we are now experiencing a decrease in biodiversity. Okay, so we as humans, we are so dependent with our biodiversity and in our everyday lives. So we need to protect it, we need to conserve it. But some ways and processes that we as humans, we never appreciated, right? So there are products that is produced with our ecosystem that we never appreciated. We don't eat that one. We throw it all away if we don't like it. So possibly that is the idea here, that somehow there are ways and processes in the ecosystem that we as humans we never appreciated. Okay, so how to achieve a healthy society? The answer to this one is we need to preserve and conserve our biodiversity. We need to appreciate the products and the services offered by our ecosystem. So we need to appreciate all of those things for us to have a healthy society. Because it is true that we are connected, we are so dependent with our biodiversity in our everyday lives. So if we tend to abuse it, if we tend not to protect it, so possibly we will experience food crisis, food shortage, and lastly we are also putting our lives at risk if we fail to protect biodiversity, or if we fail to protect or to sustain our ecosystem. And again, if we fail to keep the process of taking care of our ecosystem, it is us who is putting our lives at risk. So, do you agree with that idea? For me, yes, it is true. We are putting our lives at risk because we humans, we are dependent with the products offered by our ecosystem or produced by our ecosystem. So if we tend to abuse or not to keep the process of preserving our ecosystem, we are also putting our lives at risk. The life of our children, the life of our family. So we are all responsible to that. Okay, so changes in the ecosystem affect our livelihood. Yes, changes of our ecosystem affect our livelihood, our income, our on occasion even our health, our family, our friends. So that's why if we tend to change something, we also need to consider the impact of our ecosystem. Because the main idea here, if we tend to protect or to sustain our ecosystem, we're also sustaining our lives. We're also sustaining a better health for our families. Okay, so here are some of the major threats to biodiversity that were identified by the World Health Organization. So I have here 5 threats to biodiversity. So this is according to the World Health Organization. So number 1, so if we tend to abuse our ecosystem, so number 1, number 1 is a habitat loss and destruction. So there is a habitat loss and destruction. We will experience a lot of threat like this. So our animals do not have a good place to stay because we are transforming their natural habitat to something, right? So there is a habitat loss and destruction, a lot of destruction. So possibly if there are a lot of destruction, we're also affected by it. So we will experience a lot of natural disasters like flash flood, a lot of things because of a lot of destruction that we've done to our ecosystem. Number 2 is we have alterations in ecosystem composition, meaning if we are changing it, so possibly if we are changing or alter some of the composition of our ecosystem, we're also affected by it. We can't experience it now, but I think if we tend to abuse it all over again, possibly it will cause a lot of harm to us human beings. Okay, number 3 threats is we will experience over-exploitation, meaning we are exploiting our natural dynamics. We are not preserving it, we are not sustaining it. That's why our environment plays a great role about our lives, especially in achieving a healthy society. So if we tend to abuse our environment, our natural dynamics, possibly we also experience a lot of negative impact, and possibly we also experience a lot of threats like this. Okay, number 4, pollution and contamination. The main reason why we don't have enough water, we don't have enough food to eat, because possibly we are now experiencing over-exploitation. We are exploiting a lot of things. We are converting a lot of our natural dynamics into something more. Okay, I think I don't have any problem with transforming from one thing to another thing, but the idea here is let's let's not neglect the when we do something like this, when we try to change or alter our ecosystem. The fifth is global climate change. So I think we're all experiencing that one today. Global climate change, we're all experiencing climate change. It's very hot, the hotness, and something it's very cold. So we all experience that one, right? Because being around us, so we can't neglect this idea of a global climate change. So I think we are all experience this worldwide, and that is one of the major problems that we are now experiencing. So let's try to preserve and conserve our ecosystem by planting trees. I think that's one, by helping our ecosystem to recover despite of the changes or the alteration that we've done to our ecosystem. Okay, so sometimes the loss of biodiversity has many consequences that we understand. Yes, we accept that there is a negative consequences when we tend to decrease biodiversity, but sometimes even if we understand it, sometimes we just accept it because possibly we can also have some benefit when we try to alter or change that one. Okay, so that is the main idea here. Okay, so sometimes as humans, even if we know that it is not good to cut trees, but because it gives some benefit for us, we tend to do it. World Health Organization, biodiversity is a vital element of the human being's nutrition. Okay, so if there is a decrease in biodiversity, possibly as humans, we also experience a decrease in achieving a good health because biodiversity is an element of human beings' nutrition. So if we protect and conserve our ecosystem, if we appreciate the products produced by our ecosystem, possibly we also achieve a good and healthy society, a healthy life, a healthy body. So that is the main idea here. Okay, so take note, biodiversity influence has also influenced our food production. So if our biodiversity is good, we will produce a lot of products. We have a lot of food to eat. We have a lot of very clean water to drink. So that's why we need to help. We need to help increase our biodiversity. But now, according to World Health Organization, there is a decrease in biodiversity. So as humans, since biodiversity is connected with a healthy society, so how can we help? So how can we help increase our biodiversity for us to achieve a healthy society? Okay, so it is very sad to say that there is a decrease in biodiversity, but I think it is true. There is a decrease in biodiversity because a lot of people are doing something like this. A lot of people are not planting trees. So that's our major problem here. Okay? Almost all living organisms are dependent to their environment to live and to reproduce. I am very dependent to my environment, to our environment. So I want our environment to be good. I want our environment to be protected. So that's why almost all living organisms like us, human beings, animals, are dependent to their environment to live and reproduce. So if we tend to abuse it or if we tend to protect it, possibly we're also affected by our action. Okay. Because of the evolution of human beings, so it's easy for us. It's easy for us to do something for ourselves. It's easy for us to change something, to alter something, because as humans, we're also evolving from time to time. And we're also trying to make some changes with our environment. And because when we try to change our environment, there is a negative impact of changing our environment in achieving a healthy society. Okay, experience habitat loss, we will experience some negative threats to biodiversity. Okay, so here the idea here is if we want to sustain our life, we need to sustain our ecosystem. So if we will not protect or sustain our ecosystem, it is hard for us to live a healthy society. It is hard for us to to receive good nutrition, a healthy body. So that's why we need to change our mindset about biodiversity because we need our environment. For me, we need to protect our environment, we need to conserve or sustain our ecosystem. Because our ecosystem, they are the ones who are producing food for us to eat. Right? So now I realize it is very important to protect, to sustain, for us to also sustain human life. Okay? So that's why as what you can see now, there are a lot of very young teenagers now who are easily get sick. Possibly they are affected by the decrease in biodiversity. There is extreme hotness, extreme coldness. There are some diseases that are environment related. Okay, so according to World Health Organization, there are some diseases that are environment related illness. And this is because of the lack of, I think this is the lack of basic necessities. Therefore, if if you can't buy good food, if you can't drink clean water, possibly you will also be affected by this one. Okay, so that is a reason why we need to discuss biodiversity because we are all affected by it. We are all affected by this if we tend to not to protect our ecosystem. So therefore, there is a imbalance. There is an imbalance between our health and the biological diversity. So therefore, we are putting our lives at risk if we don't protect our ecosystem. So the only way to protect our ecosystem is to preserve and sustain them. It's difficult to think that some of human illnesses are environment-related illness. So therefore, if we tend to abuse our environment, our ecosystem, we'll also be affected by it. We easily get sick. We acquire a lot of illnesses that is environment related. So the only way for us to have a healthy society is to preserve and sustain our ecosystem and to increase biodiversity. Okay, so that is the main idea here. We need to increase biodiversity. Okay, so one of the major problem here, especially here in the Philippines, now we are experiencing climate change. And climate need a serious impact on human health. So it gives a serious impact to our human health. So if there is a relationship between human health and the environment, there is a relationship. So if we tend not to protect our environment, therefore we are not also protecting our human life. If we destroy our environment, we're also destroying our human life. So how can if we love ourselves, so how can we protect our human life? Is to protect also our environment. So how can we do that? We need to control some negative things that we are doing now. We need to preserve it and sustain our ecosystem because there is a relationship between human health and the environment. Okay, so climate change, now we are experiencing that one. So we are trying to fix that. So hopefully, as long as people are moving and trying to to think about the decrease in biodiversity, hopefully there will be a lot of people who will also think about planting some trees like plantita, plantito. They are very helpful in this time of because we are experiencing decrease in biodiversity. So the more we plant trees, the more we can help with our environment. So if you are concerned with your health and achieving a healthy society, the answer for that one is to environment. So if you are not going to protect our environment, you are also not protecting yourself. Okay, that's why I need to change my mindset because before I was not so I was not into planting some plants or trees, no. But now because of the idea of because I kept on reading a lot of things like this, so it reminds me that I need to do something to protect our environment. If not, if I will not protect our environment, I am putting my life at risk at the same time the life of our family, friends, and loved ones. Okay, so we need to increase biodiversity to protect our ecosystem because that is the main idea here If we do that, we're also protecting the lives of our family, friends, and loved ones. Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you get something out of this very quick discussion. Again, before I gave our save our ecosystem, save the future of our children. So that is the main tagline here. So I hope you get something out of this very quick discussion. Thank you so much and God bless.